students. So for today, I will just give you a brief discussion and explanation on what you will do for your home-based learning there at home about the topic
Shapes. For this week, we will focus on the third and the fourth objective, which is to visualize and describe the properties of 3D shapes and to recognize the relationship between 2D and 3D shapes. All right, so before we start, or before I give you the first example, so let's start. Let's try to define what polyhedron is. So basically, we say polyhedron, it is a 3D shape with polygonal faces. So all the faces must be all polygons. If one of the faces is not a polygon, it is not considered as a polyhedron. I'll just give you example. Now in geometry, so this 3D shape, though it's a 3D shape, it is actually called the cylinder. So this cylinder is not considered as polyhedron because not all the faces are polygons. Okay, so you could see there, so you have two faces which are circles and the other one is a rectangle, but the rectangle is not a flat polygonal face, so therefore this cylinder is not considered as a polyhedron, so we will not consider this one as an example of a polyhedron. Now in contrast, so this next 3D shape is an example of a polyhedron. So we are familiar with this 3D shape, which is actually called a cuboid. So this cuboid is a polyhedron because all the faces are all polygons, right? So as you can see there, you have two opposite faces, which are both squares, and then the rest of the faces are rectangles, which are both polygons. Okay, so cuboid is example of a polyhedron. Now, the faces of polyhedron meet at an edge. The edges meet as a vertex. So basically, edges are those lines of the polyhedron or the 3D shape, and then vertices are basically the corners. All right. Okay, so let's have another example in here. Now, so I have here two examples of polyhedrons. We have here polyhedron A, and then on the right side you have polyhedron B. Okay, now polyhedron A is an example of prism, and then polyhedron B is an example of pyramid. Now, what is the difference between prism and pyramid? You see, prism is a polyhedron where two opposite faces are the same. Now, in this case, those two opposite faces, which are both polygons, are both triangles. Okay, so both triangles, those two opposite faces. So that's why this is an example of prism. Now, how would you name this prism? So you have to name a prism based on those two opposite uh, similar faces, which are actually triangles. So therefore, so name this prism as a triangular prism. What about pyramid? What is pyramid? So pyramid is actually another example of a polyhedron. Um, the base is a polygonal face, and then the rest of the faces are actually all triangles. Okay, now if prism, you have two opposite faces which are the same. The rest of the faces are rectangles. Pyramid, the base is a polygon face, and then the rest of the faces are all triangles. Okay, so that is the difference between prism and pyramid. Now, how would you name the pyramid? So you have to look at the base. So since the base here is a square, so you should name this one as a square based pyramid. Okay, let's try to count now the number of faces, okay, of these two polyhedrons, which is actually which are actually a triangular prism and square based pyramid. Now, how many faces do you have for the polyhedron A, which is a triangular prism? Yes, exactly. So if your answer is actually 5, that is correct. You have 3 rectangles and then you have 2 triangles. So you have 5 faces. Okay, what about for the square base pyramids? If your answer is 5 also, that is also correct because we have 4 triangles and then you have 1 square, which is the base of this pyramid. So we have 5 faces. Okay, what about the edges now? So let's count the number of edges. Number of edges, again, those are the lines, right? Which are connected through those corners, which are actually the vertices. Okay, now if you would count those lines for this triangular prism, that is actually equal to 9. Yes, 9. So you have 3 for triangles and another 3 for another triangles, and then you have 3 for those rectangles, the remaining 3 edges. So in total you have 9 edges. Okay, what about for the square base pyramids? Right, exactly. If your answer is actually 8, that is correct. Okay, so if you count those lines or those edges, so that is actually 8 in total. Okay, let's have now the vertices. Vertices are the corners again. So if you would count the corners of this triangular prism, you will get actually there, you have 6 there. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have 6 corners, so therefore the number of vertices is equal to 6. Okay, what about for the square base pyramid? Right, number that would be 5. All right, so you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you have 5 corners, so therefore the number of vertices for square base pyramid is also 5. All right, now so that is how to how to count the number of faces, edges, and vertices of those polyhedrons, which are prisms and pyramid. Okay. All right. Now, so it's your turn now to do the practice for 3D shapes. So just do only number 1, okay, of your people's book on page 33. Try to finish all the questions, okay, and then submit it to your homeroom teacher after. Okay.
That's all for today. I'll see you again next week. Have a great day and keep safe everyone.